Welcome to Crystal Clear Moments, where we explore the beauty and depth in crystal clear moments in your life. I am your host, Crystal Blackwell, and I invite you to join me on a journey of reflection and discovery. Today, I have two special guests, and this is really kind of wild for me because I have been wanting to have a young professional here on my show. So this is my first Gen Z on Crystal Clear Moments podcast. And this is meaningful because not only is she representing, the largest generation on the planet. Okay, baby boomers, I know you think you got it, but Gen Z is kind of taking over here. But she is an author. And I know her mom, and we're going to talk a little bit about her and her mom and how they collaborated on her books. Let me give you a quick bio on the two before we dive into their crystal clear moments. So Erica Maxwell, who's her mom, she's a first-time author and an active member in our community in Arizona. Her and I, we've crossed paths in the community, in different things, and we've connected. And that's how I met Erica. But I didn't know she was an author until one day I was watching something, I think ABC or something on TV, and I came across, Erica and her daughter Jessica talking about this book that they both co-authored together. And I'll let them tell you, the background of it. But let me tell you, talk about taking a situation and making it a message and a purpose, which I found beautiful. So when I launched Crystal Clear Moments, right away, when I'm thinking about my guests, you guys were on the list. So, that's Erica's background. She's an activist in our community services, her heart. Then we're going to talk about Miss Jessica Alexander, right? Okay, we got to definitely speak about her. She is, the main character of the book, The Beauty with a Birthmark. And we're going to really dig into that. And we're going to talk about other things too, right? Because, beauty and birthmark, it's symbolism to so much, know, and that's why I love this. I love how you really let this really become your purpose. Yeah. So she's a recent high school grad and she's kind of figuring it out. Mom, we couldn't figure it out. Right?
We were told, girl, that it was figured out for us.
We was either at her age, you had to have some kind of something. And I love the fact that you have honored that figure out space for her because we need that. She needs to figure out her purpose. But in the meantime, she has this book that I don't even realize that she knows it's really probably her purpose or the beginning of her purpose until it begins to really, crystallize and manifest for you. So I love that. This is your jam. This is your thing right here. So let's talk about it. So this is called Beauty with a Birthmark. And first of all, I love the fact that she's rocking puffballs. Because did we not all rock? Girl, I was rocking puffballs.
And that is taken from an actual picture that I showed to the illustrator. That's an actual outfit she had as a little girl.
I love that. That's so sweet. And you know what? When you look at the picture, sometimes when you look at pictures, especially people of color, the complexion's off, the hair texture doesn't look right. But this looks like it can be her picture. Yes. This looks like you. So I love that when I look at this picture, I do see Jessica's face. So I want to start with Mom because, the fact that she has identified her birthmark as a beauty, it comes from you. It comes from the environment that you created for her. It comes from you loving and encouraging her and telling her she's beautiful before she even knew. It starts when they're babies, right?
Actually, absolutely.
So tell me about what was your crystal clear moment, Erica, when you said, this is birthmark is a beauty. When did that sort of happen for you?
Yeah, so it happened. It's clear as day as I can remember it. And she was walking. We were walking to a friend's soccer game. She was going to spend some time with her friend. And as we were walking, she said, I hate my birthmark. It's ugly and you should hate it too. And it's broke my heart because she's my child. She's beautiful. She's beautiful. The most beautiful girl in the world as far as I'm concerned. So I really realized at that moment I really needed to address it in terms of what type of literature can I give her where she can see herself and see that it's beautiful and it's what makes her unique. So I held it inside at that time and said, no, you should not hate it. And at that time I looked for children's books about birthmarks because she was about 9 years old at that time.
Okay. And that's a pretty interesting tweens kind of a year, when you're like 9 and 10, because kids become a little nasty and brutal, and we start to look in the mirror at ourselves and we start to identify with who we are. So that's a delicate age.
It is a delicate age. And so I looked, and at that point in time, there were 2 books that I found about birthmarks, children's books. One, the main character was an animal, a stork, and the other was a white male of character, which is indicative of the majority of children's literature.
Right.
And so I said, I'm going to have to write a book where she can see herself. And, if not me, who? So started on that journey of writing the book and picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down, had it assessed and reviewed, made some revisions. And it was just always, it was a process. And then finally in March 10th of 2022, we're coming up on the second year anniversary of it actually being a book. And there was friends helped me, encouraged me along the way, getting her input. Being an educator, I liked rhyme. And so I thought about how could I make it interesting and really showcase her life and how her friends have accepted her for her birthmarks, and then how freckles, moles, did some research about how those are considered birthmarks too.
So talk to us about like her birthmark, like specifically, what is it?
Yes, so it's nevus of Ota. So no one ever told us what it was. And when I look back at that, wow, and you talk about health equity. Why did no one, she was born with it.
Right.
The doctor never said, this is what she has.
So when she was a baby, she had it, and you're like, what is this? And no one could really tell you what it was.
Right. Right. And part of me didn't care. Right. She was beautiful. She was, my child, our child. And so then when we took her and her brother to dermatologist Dr. Tony Stockton in Ahwatukee, they were looking at acne. And so then I inquired with the physician's assistant about what that was. She called Dr. Stockton in and she told us it's nevus of Ota. And so we're talking about 11 years later, 12 years later. Wow. Yes, it had never been explained. And I have met people that say, I think my son, I was vendoring at an event, and a woman was saying her son, she thought that was what her son had, and no one had ever said that.
Right.
That's unacceptable.
You have to have a name. We have to have names to things. So it's important for you to have identified what it was. And just so that people know, because our podcast is international, Dr. Stockton is in a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona, which is called Ahwatukee. So so that you get some geographic around where it's at. But the fact that she was able to put a name to it, it honored it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it was dishonored when you're walking around with something and people would ask, what is it? Right. And you can't name it.
Right.
I feel like that's a dishonoring of it and of you not being able to share that, put a name to it. So I want to go ahead and switch over here to you, Jessica, because this is all about you. I mean, mom is part of the story, but you're living it.
Yeah.
Like you're day in and day out, you living with it. So what was your earliest memory of, that you have this birthmark? Do you remember that?
My earliest memory of it really, since I was younger, since I was living in Cleveland before I even moved out here, especially looking back at pictures and stuff, it jogs my memory of everything just because it is something that I've always had. jogging the memory of when I was able to identify it, more of middle school, like that junior high, 7th and 8th grade, the sticky years. That's when all the real true stuck memories come. But I've always remembered having it and growing up with it, for sure.
So if you're comfortable, what were some of the things that you had to deal with? Having your beauty birthmark.
Yeah. Man, like it's especially at an age like that through those sticky years. Because that's when the true process of everybody trying to find themselves and find their community and what environment they like being in. I feel like that's when all of that really starts. The pre-high school.
That's so true.
But,
She's right.
But the after elementary. So like,
you're developing.
Yeah.
People will say you smelling yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. So there are so many different types of things that people have said and done. I remember people used to think it was a black eye. People used to be like, well, what happened? And for a while, all I could say was, it's my birthmark. That's that's all the info I can give.
Yeah.
People used to call me a cow because I was two-toned.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot. It was all type of things. And then like if it was a situation, bringing up the birthmark is just an extra little point, so it doesn't even have to be about specifically the looks. It could just be like an extra bonus point for somebody to bring up.
Absolutely.
But I remember multiple things that have been said and done. And then I also have older people that try to lift me up through it. But yeah, the people my age at that time, it was a cruel time. And it never really stopped. There were times where it died down or whatever, but it's definitely like I've accepted the fact that I have to live with it and nothing's really I don't expect it to stop. Just because it's not something I can get rid of. It's not a choice. It's not an option.
It's like an ear. It's here. It's there for life. Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. So I just want to say this. So before we air the podcast, we got a chance to like talk and chit chat. This girl here I love her. First of all, she's funny as heck. 'Cause we were cracking up. And that humor, that light just radiated. It radiates all over you. It's part of who you are. Very sweet spirit, smart. Don't put nothing past her. I can already tell.
Yeah.
She's a sharp one. She's not going to allow people to walk over her. You have this power. And you know what? People think that being power and confident, you got to throw that out.
Oh yeah.
It can be a silent, self-assured confidence that you exude. And I know, like now you're a young adult, you've sort of arrived.
Yeah.
But talk to me, give me like a moment or a time where you really had to like build yourself up because of the name calling or maybe people you trying to make you feel less than because when they looked in the mirror, they didn't have a beauty mark.
Honestly, it's hard for me to require a specific time or an event where that took place. But I know one day something probably happened and I just had to be like in my mind, like, I know this isn't going to be the last time, but you have to make yourself let them know that it's going to be the last time because like if I convince myself, it's so much easier to convince other people because how are you going to convince other people of something you don't even know? So if I believe that I'm beautiful and it doesn't bother me, I can convince you. And if I don't convince you, that's okay because I'm already convinced myself.
Okay.
So
look at that.
But probably around end of 8th grade. And then once I hit high school, I was able to solidify that. Solidify that thought and confirmation in my head.
So let's pause here because there's adults, full grown people that can't do what she just talked about. So I want you to know where you're at. The fact that a couple things pop up. The fact that the words didn't penetrate. Because you can't, like you said, I don't remember. Like, something happened, but that didn't penetrate. And you know how stuff penetrates and we carry on, and that did not penetrate. It wasn't like you didn't hear it.
Yeah.
You knew it existed, but it didn't penetrate. And I kind of go back to, the world you guys created, the love, the safety net, the fact that you made her feel not superior, but good enough. Right. You have all that you need to be, you're beautiful as you are, Right. The fact that that was the foundation, that she was able to say, I know it was happening. You heard it, but it didn't stick. And you still were able to transfer it over, and, apply it. Like you said, when you went to high school, you really was like, okay, I'm very clear. This is who I am. This is I almost heard in your tone, bring it.
Yeah, right. No, literally.
Like, bring it. And not that you're aggressive at all, but just like, bring it. If you bring it up, I'm confident enough. First of all, I'm beautiful. And I'm confident enough to address it because now I have the language. Now I know what it is. And now I know what it is. It's just, it's beyond just a birthmark.
Yeah.
It's really part of my beauty. Yeah. Right. It's who I am. Yeah. Good for you.
Oh,
good for you. Yes.
And I've realized, she didn't necessarily share all those things with me. And so part of me realizes she needed me in that space. Even though I would go up to that school in a minute if I had to. I remember there were some incidents, but it makes me reflect on what I could have done better in terms of, because I don't know how it feels to have a birthmark so visible on my face. And, I wish I could have been there differently for her. And so, for that, I apologize. And she suppressed a lot of things. She wouldn't come home and say, someone said I looked like a cow or anything. And this is the first time I've heard that. And so it's, being a parent.
Yes, I understand.
Is always a challenge. And, you think about what you could do better. And we think we love our kids enough and our love is enough.
Yeah.
But it really takes more than that in terms of really understanding and being in that space. And sometimes we're in our own spaces that cause us to,
of course,
maybe not be as attentive as we need to be in. And we really have to be attentive with our kids because we know the, mental health crisis on the rise and the racism is on the rise. And kids are going to pick out anything that makes you different. Growing up, I've had this gap since I was born. And, people used to say things to me about my gap. And it's going to be something.
Yeah, it's always something.
But she's done and handled things extremely well. And I couldn't be more proud of her.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica, for being transparent about that. That sharing, we have parents and we have young parents, older parents, but young parents who are still raising their kids. They can glean from just like you said. Sometimes we can't just be present all the time to catch those. But you're not beating yourself up. You just acknowledge, wow, I wish I could have. But, what they say, the fruit, look at the fruit of the tree, you did a lot right. You did a whole lot right to get to where, she has no idea this world, this whole future's ahead of her. I can see it. I know you can see it as a parent. We see that. And I'm hoping, I think you can get a glimpse of it. I don't know. I think she can see a little sparkle ahead of her for her future. And I want to honor you in this space because I think what you're doing, this story, is bigger than you think. Because it's bigger than, a birthmark. You really are simply saying, we're talking about self-worth. We're talking about being able to build from self-worth. You build confidence from that. And then being able to have that, to make it in this world, especially being a woman of color, and in a space where, right away our necks are popping, we sucking our teeth, we get angry too fast, and can we not go on and on all the stereotypes, that they have on us? But you took this situation and made it powerful for all. This is for all. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So what I want to do, if you're comfortable, and I don't know if Mom wants to first, do you have like a favorite page or something that you want to read to us? And then tell us why it's your favorite.
Right.
So and I'm coming to you next.
Okay.
You know that.
I hope she don't take my page. I got to think of a couple ones.
Gosh, okay, so I like to travel. So my favorite page, I'm going to say my top 2 favorite pages. It's her on the car, traveling.
Look at her, all over the U.S.
And now she's international. So this is one of my favorites because I love maps. And she travels. And like I said, now she's international. And I like the picture with Dr. Toni Stockton as well, because she was at one time the only Black dermatologist in the entire state.
Yes.
And she is the one. And I wonder if it had not been for her, would anyone have ever said anything?
Right.
So also,
it would have been just like a birthmark.
Yeah.
Right.
And that with no name.
Right, exactly.
So this is important because health equity matters. And she actually is the one that said, too, we have to watch her eyesight because it's not just on her face. 2 spots on her eyes, her eyes are also impacted. And so that's major.
That's major. Absolutely.
And so she also lended a quote on the back. And it's just been awesome to work with her and to say, this is why we need more Black and African American health professionals, because it matters.
It does matter.
It mattered for us, for her to come in and say, this is what it is, watch that when she goes to the ophthalmologist every year.
Yes.
And why did it take so long?
Yeah.
So it's very powerful. So those are my favorite. Okay, and then my last one is the runway. When she's rocking the runway and she's on the cover.
Look at her. She's cute on this too. Yes. With her little scarf on, definitely.
Yes.
So before we get to your favorite, just give us a summary of the book. Like, what's the age? What's the age that this is going for?
Someone just inquired about that today. It's really all ages. There are really. I have had people come to me as adults, little kids see themselves. Oh, I have freckles, or I have a mole, or I have a scar, because we talk about all those things. Yes. But with the vocabulary, third and fourth graders. Okay. Yes.
So when you say all ages, you know what comes to mind to me? An author whose vocabulary is for young, early readers, right? But Dr. Seuss. Whereas Dr. Seuss, you can't really put him in a box. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Because you and I both, an adult will read that. Right. So I kind of think of this at that, where the meaning overpowers sort of the age. I mean, it's good for vocabulary, like you said, for like learning and a good read for a kid on a reading list. But like Dr. Seuss books had meanings that went from 0 to 100. Right. Good.
Yeah, and I wrote it in rhyme. We wrote it in rhyme, and one of the things that's unique too is all the words are capital. It's unique. She's unique. That's unique, because in most book titles with an A are lowercase.
Lowercase, yes.
I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, you want everything to be capital.
Right. So that was something too that was unique.
Very nice. So tell us about. So give us like a summary without telling us everything. Don't do a spoiler, but get us excited about it, because I want families, I want people to go out and get this and share it within our community, but all communities of color and everyone, because people can identify with something that's unique on their body.
Yeah. Okay, you want me to give the summary?
Well, which one? Who want to give the summary
It's really. Summary. Okay. It's about the upbringing of a person. Happens to be me, but really I hope this reaches anybody and anybody can see themselves being the main character or characters in the book. But it's about the upbringing of one and the self-worth that comes along with the journey, the activities that come along. And I think one of the main points and main ideas is that what you have, because it goes over multiple things, multiple different types of birthmarks, such as moles and freckles. It goes over all of that. So one of the main key points is that all of those things or whatever you have or don't have doesn't have to change what you do.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm like in the book, no spoilers, but how she was saying her travel page is the favorite and walking the cover of a magazine or a book. You know, that the birthmark is a plus. So it's basically, it's just the upbringing and all the activities and how the birthmark got found out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just a little, it's a journey book. It really is. Yeah. That's a little sneak peek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that. I love it. So as we begin to start to wrap up, what would you, and I'll come to Jessica, then I'll we'll wrap it up with Mom. What would you say if there was a little boy, and they were struggling with some sort of a birthmark, or maybe a limb, or maybe just something that doesn't fit into what American or the world culture calls normal.
Right.
You know, and that whatever that is.
Yeah.
But I think we all know that there's a certain type, right? Who's struggling, and they may not have the support and may not have been, told they're beautiful. What advice would you, or how would you lean into that?
I would really start with just telling them flat out, it's not easy. It's hard. Everybody in your community or your environment has a specific way of what they think normal should be or what they think normal should look like. But the problem is when everybody thinks normal is all different types of meanings, it's hard to, who's going to be the final say? Who's going to be the final decision? So it's up to you to consider yourself normal. And you shouldn't want to be normal. There is no true definition of what normal is. There is no right or wrong. So I would just have to tell him or her it's going to be hard for sure. But that goes back to what's your definition of yourself? How do you want to carry yourself? How do you want to perceive yourself? Because you can't, it's going to be harder to tell people to not look at you a certain way or not view you a certain way when you don't view yourself a certain way.
That's
so,
huge. Yeah.
So it's really just, it's self-worth, self-definition. And again, it's hard. It's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. But you can get through it if you believe you can. So,
and I like that you're honest. I think sometimes we can fluff the truth. And when you just land the plane in a gentle way, like, this is going to be a tough road.
It is.
But let me give you some tools to help you get through this tough road. And you can make it easier. But we can't change people, right?
Right, exactly.
All we can do is focus on how we show up and how we deal with it. So, that's a lesson across the board.
Right.
This is not, this is a lesson, I think, that, we may have to uncover this lesson next week. We don't know what's around the corner, what challenge, is knocking at our doors. So look at that. See, wisdom. You guys better stop messing with these young people. They have wisdom.
Oh yes, they do. And
definitely.
they speak it too.
They really do.
Really
I love that. I love giving them an opportunity to share. I always gleam. I always can find something that I can put in my back pocket. Okay, so Mom, it's on you. You tell us, as from a parent perspective, who it's a different feel for a parent, because we, you relive it probably all the time. You know, like you said, you heard something today that you had a moment of reliving that, you know, for a second.
Right.
What can you share with a parent or a guardian or just somebody who's just around a child, you know, any adult who may come to where some child may have something that's different. Maybe their hair is different.
Right.
You know, maybe it's the color. You know, I think we were talking earlier, you know, before, you know, the podcast began. I was speaking with the gentleman here about people who are albino,
Yes.
you know, and then that and how this could relate really well for a child who's struggling with that. As a parent, how would you coach a parent? What would you say to a parent?
I think it's important to listen to what is said and not said. And give them a chance to express, not to push. But they give them the opportunity to really reveal what's happening inside.
Right.
And giving them that space. And you can reinforce it all you want. And it's important to reinforce that they are beautifully and wonderfully made, as it says in the Bible. But I really think as a parent, we have to listen and we have to make space for them to understand, our child and children to understand that they are here for a reason.
Yes.
And they are unique. That's why it's, you know, everyone's different, and that's what makes the world a wonderful place. And the beauty in being unique and different. And really, again, like I said, I think listening. I wish I had listened more to what was unspoken.
Yeah, that's huge.
You have to be really in tune to do that, and not, you know, because we're working, we have so many things going on, right? But nothing's more important than the development of, you know, our child and children.
Absolutely. Yes. Good. Well, thank you guys both for being here. Before we go, I like to ask this one question, and it's an easy breezy one, but you know, it's sort of a new year for a lot of us. We're walking into a new space, and do you have like a word that you're focusing on for the year? What word speaks to you?
Commitment.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's good. Commitment.
Yeah, commitment.
Yeah. Do you want to share, or you can leave it just like that?
Commitment really could apply to anything and everything in every aspect of your life. And commitment doesn't have to be specifically to a person or a thing, but if you're not committed to a person or a thing, that's being committed to not being committed. So you are you're, regardless of what you choose, you're going to be committed. And I think along with committed is like sticking with it. So I just have to I want to find my commitment in a couple of things and different aspects of my life.
Good. Love that commitment. What about you, Miss Erica? You got a word for us?
I do. Inspiring. Yesterday, I was given a bracelet by the director that I work with. And so she says some things to me, I think, that I have to reflect upon how my actions inspire others, whether I realize it or not, how the book inspires others, how me showing up for my friends, for my kids inspires others and them. Awesome. And so, you know, she said some things to me that wow me. You know, she said, I don't think people don't realize how much you've contributed and done. And I've only been working with her for a month and a half. And so
she sees the light already.
Yeah. So she
hard to miss.
Yeah. And she made bracelets for me and my colleagues, and each one has a different word. And for her to say inspiring, just made me reflect. Erica, you do have an impact in inspiring others.
Good.
So
That's good. It's good to own who you are. Yes. You know, I think that's important. My word, because I'm asking you to share yours, my word is consistency. So just being consistent and just all things kind of lean to what you were saying, you know, and just because consistency drives the results. So just making sure that I'm consistent. So thank you for sharing your words for the year, you know, and lean into it. And everyone, thank you so much for listening to Crystal Clear Moments. My guest here. I'm honored, you guys, for having me. So please subscribe. That's for one. I have a couple of actions for you. Subscribe. After you subscribe, please rate me because I'm trying to get 100 reviews and give me a review. And we thank you so much. And again, thank you. And again, you go out and make your Crystal Clear moments.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You bet.